The secret geometry of Crusader strongholds. The blazing midday sun casts uneven shadows across the shattered remnants of Château where the broken walls of a once mighty Templar fortress rise above the rugged Palestinian coast, standing like sentinels against a restless sea as though waiting for ships that will never return. Waves crash and echo through hollow corridors that have been silent for centuries, whispering through archways carved by hands long gone, yet it is not merely the ruins themselves that hold fascination but the method and intent behind their creation, for within the geometry of these stones some scholars believe lie hidden meanings, mathematical harmonies and sacred alignments understood only by the initiated.
At first, the architecture of the Crusaders seems purely functional, designed for defense with walls, towers, cisterns and battlements arranged with military precision. Yet when researchers began mapping these fortresses in greater detail, unexpected anomalies appeared, measurements that align not only with the terrain but with ancient architectural principles known long before the Crusades began.
Consider the formidable Crac des Chevaliers, regarded as one of the finest examples of medieval military design. Its outer walls appear simple, almost austere, but deeper study reveals internal chambers whose proportions follow the golden ratio, a mathematical relationship celebrated for its symmetry and spiritual beauty. Such precision seems far beyond mere practicality and raises questions of how and why this ratio appears in a fortress built for war. Another example lies at Belvoir Castle, perched above the Jordan Valley. Its inner courtyard forms a near-perfect square, suggesting deliberate use of sacred geometry. The outer and inner defenses reflect each other like concentric shapes arranged in careful harmony. While some dismiss this as coincidence, others see it as evidence of hidden architectural knowledge preserved and expressed through stone. Historians debate where such ideas originated. Perhaps the Crusaders inherited them from Byzantine or Islamic builders, both cultures steeped in mathematics, astronomy, and geometry, or perhaps some among the Templar and Hospitaller orders had been trained in older esoteric traditions passed down quietly through generations of craftsmen. These master builders were not merely warriors or monks but artisans carrying the symbolic languages of cathedral architecture across continents. A recurring feature in Crusader fortresses is the use of octagonal towers and chambers, a form uncommon in Western Europe yet frequent in the Holy Land, most notably mirrored in the Dome of the Rock, which the Crusaders once converted into a church. Both Christian and Islamic traditions regard the number 8 as representing rebirth and transcendence. The space between earth and heaven, its use in military architecture, may hint at a deeper spiritual symbolism, suggesting these fortresses served not only as strongholds but as sanctuaries of hidden meaning. Orientation 2 reveals mysteries. Several Crusader churches, such as the one at Sebastia, deviate from the expected eastward alignment, instead positioned towards specific sunrise points corresponding to solstices or equinoxes. Such astronomical precision recalls pagan and classical temples more than medieval cathedrals, raising the possibility that these sites fused older cosmological beliefs with newer faiths, blending sacred geometry with strategic design. Some researchers, including Dr. G. Moll, propose that these fortifications were not only defensive but resonant structures designed to channel sound or energy. His observations at Tortosa indicated that sound traveled with unusual clarity through certain vaults while magnetic readings fluctuated in others. Was this intentional or simply coincidence? Could the Crusaders have encoded acoustic or energetic properties into their architecture as part of a forgotten science? Intriguing discoveries continue to surface, such as the incomplete mosaic uncovered at the Templar Church of Abu Ghosh. Beneath centuries of debris lay a design featuring a circle within a square surrounded by winding geometric patterns, visually beautiful yet symbolically reminiscent of mystical diagrams used in Kabbalistic and alchemical manuscripts, suggesting contemplation, meditation, or even encoded messages hidden beneath the floor. Adding complexity, many Crusader fortresses were built atop earlier Roman, Byzantine, or Canaanite foundations, layers of civilization stacked through time, forming a palimpsest in stone. Within these overlapping structures, some believe lie concealed messages, perhaps even star maps or celestial alignments. The chapel at the Templar Commandery of Arcer contains 3 narrow windows that once each year align perfectly, with the 3 stars of Orion's belt mirroring patterns seen in ancient Egyptian monuments. Was this deliberate symbolism or evidence of astronomical knowledge preserved through secret traditions? The notion that Crusader architects embedded maps of the heavens within their fortresses remains controversial yet compelling. If true, it would suggest that these military orders saw their constructions as earthly reflections of divine order, merging architecture with cosmology, faith with science, and geometry with revelation. Much about these structures remains unexplored. Political unrest, erosion, and the passage of time have buried countless clues. What lies beneath the crumbled towers and sealed chapels? What inscriptions or chambers may still be hidden, awaiting rediscovery? And what truths were meant to remain concealed?
As we look beyond the Crusades as mere wars of faith and conquest, and instead as movements steeped in secret wisdom and symbolic craft, the ruins themselves begin to speak differently. Every arch and angle becomes part of a greater language. Geometry turns into scripture, stone becomes text.
And silence becomes message, so we are left to wonder, what were these knights truly constructing? Were their fortresses only bastions of battle or monuments to forgotten knowledge? What ancient codes lie carved within their stones, waiting for someone across centuries to finally understand their purpose? The Lost Crusader Journeys. Beneath the same ancient constellations, the mystery endures across the broken ruins of a forgotten outpost half buried by the drifting sands of northern Syria, where a single rusted mail link lies uncovered, shaped by time and wind, its metal corroded yet undeniably of European origin. Nearby, the splintered remains of a wooden chest rest silent, its iron clasps long dissolved, leaving behind no relics, no coins, no banners, only emptiness and the echo of absence. The Great Crusades are remembered in chronicles and chants, the first blazing toward Jerusalem, the third led by kings and challenged by Saladin, the fifth swallowed by the Nile. Yet among these known wars existed others unnumbered, uncelebrated, and half erased from record. Minor campaigns, they are sometimes called shadow expeditions, and lost movements that vanished between faith and oblivion. Their names faded from parchment, their paths erased by the sands of time. What became of them remains unknown. In the year 1101, just 2 years after Jerusalem's capture, a wave of zeal once more spread through Europe, forming what was later known as the Crusade of the Faint-Hearted, a movement intended to strengthen the fragile Latin kingdoms. It was led by notable nobles Stephen of Blois, William IX of Aquitaine, and Hugh of Vermandois. With armies vast and confident, they marched east. Some were cut down near Heraclea, others disappeared beyond Ancyra, scattered by Turkish ambushes, but the accounts diverge completely. Byzantine records claim thousands were taken prisoner and forced inland, while Arab writers suggest many were enslaved or absorbed into local populations. Yet one contingent took the southern path along ancient Roman routes into Cilicia and onward through the Armenian highlands. Their fate is unwritten. No chronicle marks a battle or surrender, only silence. Did they perish in frozen mountains or find sanctuary in secluded valleys? Local traditions in eastern Anatolia long spoke of distant villages called Franks, whose customs blended Western prayer with Eastern tongue and dress. By the Ottoman era, nothing of them remained. Perhaps assimilation erased them, or perhaps they were remnants of Crusader bands who chose exile over death. A later mystery appears in the chronicles of the Teutonic Knights around the early 1300s. A lesser-known German force is said to have departed from Venice, sailing not for Palestine but toward the southern Black Sea. Their letters from the Cathedral of Trier describe a plan to strike at the pagan frontier, yet no further message arrived, no soldiers returned. However, an Arabic chronicle known as the Record of Al-Babi mentions pale warriors in white cloaks bearing black crosses seen near the Caucasus Mountains. They fought briefly with local tribes before disappearing into the wilderness. Were they annihilated in an unknown battle, or did they journey beyond the horizon where no chronicler followed? Another enigma concerns a supposed naval crusade launched from Pisa in the mid-12th century. A fleet of 30 ships destined for the ports of Acre or Tripoli, but never reported to have arrived. Only a single administrative record mentions their absence, listing the loss of vessels promised for holy service. Storms and pirates were blamed. Centuries later, Egyptian port documents from Alexandria described fragments of Frankish ships discovered along the Red Sea coast, a region far from any Crusader route. Why were Christian warships there? Had they strayed off course or sought something hidden, a relic, a forbidden trade route, or a lost alliance? Later Templar writings make obscure reference to the voyage of the Lion's Wing, believed by some to describe this vanished fleet. Perhaps the most haunting account lies in a letter from Otto of Freising written in 1145. He speaks of an Eastern Christian monarch called Prester John who had supposedly led an army from beyond Persia to aid the Crusaders. Otto's tone is exact, his words describing a ruler who crossed rivers of India and waged war against fire worshippers. Carrying banners marked with both cross and crescent, he writes that this king did not fall but descended into the earth itself, a poetic turn or a veiled hint at a campaign lost to myth. Some speculative researchers propose that small Crusader groups ventured far beyond their intended fields, seeking distant Christian allies across Persia, Central Asia, and even India. They cite scattered Armenian and Mongol records hinting at European visitors whose identities were never confirmed. Orthodox historians reject these theories, yet the gaps in evidence remain. Unsettling names appearing once, then vanishing without trace, fragments of movements erased before memory could solidify. Why would entire armies march into silence? Perhaps ambition turned to miscalculation or disaster. Perhaps something occurred beyond record that made secrecy preferable to truth. Maps may have guided them toward legends of kingdoms and treasures never proven. In the archives of Monte Cassino, a charred manuscript bears a single haunting phrase: they passed into a land unmarked beneath an unfamiliar sky, and there they remained. Was this a poetic invention or the last surviving memory of one of these forgotten crusades? It may never be known, for history itself is full of missing lines, spaces where stories once were, and echoes without origin. How many crusades were not lost on the battlefield but erased in recollection, and how many more linger undiscovered, waiting beneath the next ruined stone or buried artifact, unseen beneath the weight of centuries?